music, athletics, arts, and entertainment. The Desert Tiger Podcast with Colton Geschwantner.
Holy hole in a donut, you guys. Like, seriously, absolutely, incredibly. You are amazing. Over 30%. Over 30% is what the DTP has grown in March alone. And that has a very, 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 very large part to do. Well, actually, it has every single thing to do with you guys, the listeners, the subscribers, the people who are tuning in. You guys are so incredible, and thank you so much for helping blow this thing up, for smashing that subscribe button, for sharing it on your social media with your friends, with your family, letting people know about the podcast. This is pretty much all because of you guys, and thank you so much for caring about this community called Desert Tiger. And I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying the product and the interviews, the entertainers that we're introducing you to, or maybe letting you get to know a little bit better. So with that being said, we're extremely thankful for you guys, wherever you're from, whatever you're listening on, whoever you are. Thank you for tuning in once again. Like my main man said at the beginning of the show, his name's Jesse, and my name is Colton G. Welcome to episode 29 of the Desert Tiger Podcast, and today on the podcast, my guests is going to be 4 members of the band Ned Kelly. Today I'm going to be joined by Tim Newton, Sage McBride, Jordan Vlashert, and Ty West. We're going to get a little bit more into who they are, what they do into the band, and everything else like that once we jump into the interview. But of course, I'm going to give you a little bit of a bio on the band. We're going to jump into some music. We're going to have a great time. We're going to get into the interview. You guys know what the dealio is here on the DTP. So let's get into it. Soaked in electric crescendos and folk-tinged sing-along anthems, Ned Kelly is known for their high-energy live show that ignites dance floors with their alternative folk sound. Over 4 albums and countless tours, the British Columbians have developed their signature sound by taking inspiration from the mountains they hail from and the people who inhabit them. Ned Kelly have seamlessly fused traditional instrumentation with modern rock, presenting a sound that is both unique and compelling. Ned Kelly has produced their most ambitious project yet, with their 4th and most recent album, Archipelago. A word that you are going to see I have a little bit of trouble with in this episode. The collaborative songwriting of the members of the band have pulled inspiration from individual experiences and musical influences. The result is a dynamic and cohesive collection of dreamy, yet explosively exciting songs dipped in themes of relationships and the world in a modern age. Using traditional instrumentation at the base of the songwriting, the album explodes into a symphony of sounds incorporating banjos, ukuleles, synthesizers, guitar hooks, harmonies, and pulsing beats. Their high-energy sound has allowed them to perform at many Canadian and international festivals, including North by Northeast, South by Southwest, Reeperbahn, Winnipeg Folk Festival, Breakout West, just to name a few, and the group has also achieved a growing list of awards and recognition, including 5 Kootenai Music Awards and 1 Western Canadian Music Award, over 1 million Spotify plays, recognition on the CBC, and media attention in Canada, the USA, and Germany. And hopefully we can push that a little bit further with this interview today. Okay, so we need to take care of business. We're going to play some music and we're going to get into our interview with Tim, Sage, Ty, and Jordan of Shred Kelly. So first off, you guys need to know that by take care of business, I mean we need to tell you about the great companies that allow me to bring you the Desert Tiger podcast for free every single Thursday, every single week. And you guys also know that, of course, I speak of Collar and Elbow, the comfortable, awesome-looking, wrestling-inspired streetwear company where you will save 10% if you use the code DTP when you are checking out. And you also know that I am talking about Audible. You guys know how much I love Audible, how much I love audiobooks because I am constantly working, driving, working out, doing all sorts of different things that constantly involve not being able to actually look at a book. So you guys know that I love audiobooks. That's why we teamed with Audible. And if you guys go to www.audible.com/DTP, you're going to get 1 free month of Audible plus 1 free audiobook to get you started. Alright, now we are going to play some music for you. Let's get some Shred Kelly into your ears. Let's get you enjoying it so you can get a taste of the band before we jump into this interview with 4 of the members. So we're going to start off with the title track from the latest album. This is Archipelago.
the Desert Tiger Podcast.
We are here with the members of Ned Kelly. Do you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves and what you do in the band, please?
All right. I'm Sage McBride, and I play keyboards and sing.
I'm Tim Newton. I play the banjo, ukulele, and I sing.
I'm Ty West, and I play guitar.
My name's Jordan, and I play bass and other things that need playing.
Awesome. All right. So, if you guys would like to paint the picture for our listeners of how did Ned Kelly come together?
Okay. Well, we all moved to Fernie, British Columbia, which is a small town in BC. It's a little ski town. We all moved there individually without knowing each other. We met there just through a jam night that I was running and at a bar called the Brick House. And I had just bought a banjo, so I was kind of just learning it, and I was writing some simple songs on it and bringing it to the jam night. And so these guys would come every week and sort of join in on the songs that I had written. And after a while, after a whole ski season of playing these songs in front of our friends in the town, a promoter from down the street saw us kind of playing and said, I need an opening act. So he booked us for our very first show, and it was awesome. It was good. Awesome. So that was kind of set us on a path of 8 years later.
Okay, cool. So what kind of made you decide to pick up a banjo?
You know what? It's funny because I was a drummer before I played the banjo, and I never had through my life pictured myself playing that instrument, but one day I was walking by a pawn shop with my buddy Steve, and there just happened to be one in the window. And I had just started listening to a couple bands that I really liked, like Elliot Brood and Old Man Ludica, who are banjo sort of players, or a band with a banjo in it and a banjo player. And I just kind of, there's something about the instrument that it looked like a challenge. It looked like something, I didn't have much going on at the time other than this jam night. And I was kind of unemployed, so I was like, oh yeah, this will be a fun project. And so I bought the banjo that day for like $250. It was like a crappy old used banjo, and I spent the next like year just trying to master it, because it's actually a really hard instrument. It's a strange instrument. You know, it's kind of like half a drum. Different. Yeah, it's like a drum with a neck and strings, and it's got 5 strings instead of, you know, like traditional 6 or
sort of sitting right in between a traditional guitar and a traditional bass.
Yeah, it's got this like weird short string halfway up the neck. And so I mean just learning to play the instrument just became an obsession. And that's pretty much the inspiration. And like as I was learning it, I kind of I was never really too much into folk music or anything like bluegrass before that. As I said, I liked some sort of like of the indie players that were using it in Canadian modern music, but I had never really grown up on folk or bluegrass.
Yeah.
So when I was learning the techniques, I just sort of modified it into my own style and used what I was learning into like the stuff I knew, which was like alternative rock and punk and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, so you weren't like really trying to follow any traditional banjo player or anything of that sort?
Not at all. I was trying to like master like the picking patterns and then play them as fast as I can. Okay. and then I could hear how that, you know, like that sort of foot stomp bluegrass folk tempo could be sped up into like the music I liked, and I could just hear something out of the tone of the instrument and the picking that I was doing that could be made into songs that I wanted to write.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said that you all sort of ended up in Fernie. So where are you all originally from then?
I'm originally from Manaki, Ontario, which is a little town near Kenora, Ontario, which is a little town near Winnipeg, Manitoba. So I'm on that side of the Manitoba side of the Ontario border is where I grew up.
I grew up in southern Ontario in a town called Richmond Hill, and it's sort of like it's just north of Toronto, about half an hour.
And I grew up in a small town outside of Sarnia, Ontario, right on Lake Huron.
Continuing with the small town theme, I'm from a small town called Lakefield, just outside of Peterborough, Ontario.
Okay, so all of you guys are from Ontario.
Yes.
How did you end up in BC?
Skiing. We
Mountain
wanted to
life.
be ski bums.
Fair enough.
Pretty much,
Fernie's
that's
the
it.
perfect place for that then,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so, well, Tim, Jordan, and I all moved to Fernie separately to be ski bums. And then but we were all doing music just for fun as a project on the side when we lived there. And then once we started touring in a band, we were going to Nelson, and it quickly became one of our favorite places that we were playing on tour. And it had the friendliest bartender in the world, which was this guy over here, Ty West. And we, when we needed a new guitar player, he was touring through Fernie with another band. And so we asked him if he was interested in helping us out, and luckily he was, and now we've been together ever since.
Awesome. Okay, so did you guys get into writing the first album right away, or was that something that like you guys automatically had as an idea, was like, let's write some songs that we can record and make something of this, or was that something that just sort of progressed into it?
Yeah, I think the very first album was, I had written a whole bunch of songs that we were doing at that jam night, and so we had a handful of them, but we were also doing a lot of covers just to fill up a set, and we were mainly just playing locally around Fernie, and so we hadn't really left town yet, but the catalyst of recording the first album was booking our very first tour outside of Fernie, going across Canada. We need something to sell at the shows and whatnot, so I guess that sort of got us into writing mode, but at the time it was still, I think I was the main songwriter, and I was presenting songs to the band, and they'd put their flavor on it in the jam room, and then we'd rehearse them out. And our first record we recorded in this, like, we went to Montana, and
Straw Bale House.
yeah, we recorded with a really awesome guy named Greg Grant, and it was an off the grid recording studio made of straw bale construction. So it kind of looked like a Hobbit house, something like Bilbo Baggins would live in, and it was a really cool studio. But we did the recording over many sessions for our first album, Goodbye July, and yeah, it was cool.
We forgot to introduce everyone to Tucker. There's also Tucker. Tucker the dog is here with us as well.
Yes, he's making a lot of noise in the background.
So if you hear random noises,
Random
Or heavy breathing.
heavy breathing, it is not us.
Okay, so you say that originally you were presenting the songs. How has the band transitioned their songwriting since the beginning then? Has it become more of a group effort then?
Sure, yeah. Every album that we've put out, more and more members have been involved in the writing process. I mean, everybody's always been involved in the writing process in some form, but as each album has gone on, more people have like written whole songs and presented it, and we've been doing a lot of just jamming stuff out in the rehearsal space, and letting the songs evolve as a group as well. So yeah, that's been really amazing, because I think it's all of us come from different musical backgrounds, so it's really cool to hear what people bring to the table, and then what we can do with it from there.
Okay, cool. So with the new album, sorry if I...
That's okay.
Archipelago?
Yeah, it was close. It was close.
Nice.
Archipelago.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, as it is. So for that album, where did you guys record that?
We recorded it. We met a couple of guys we did this thing in Vancouver a few years ago called the Peak Performance Project, and we met a few guys there. One was named Josh Rob William, and he works at a studio called OCL Studios in Calgary, and then Howard Redikoff was there as well, and he owns a studio in Vancouver. So we did part of the recording in Calgary, the bed tracks with Josh, and then we did the vocal overdubs and some instrumental overdubs with Howard in Vancouver. And we kind of did the album over the course of, it was almost a year, I think, until it was like from when we first started recording to when it was actually pressed and or when it was being sent off to be pressed. So we had a little bit more time to kind of work on the songs and bring them home and think about them, and we had like just little sessions. So it was neat because in the past we've only ever just gone and recorded for 20 days straight, and this time we kind of did it over a year. So yeah, I don't know, it definitely took longer. It was harder to get the product, or it took longer to get the product out, but it was neat that we had some time to like sit on the songs and listen to them and decide if we wanted to like add or edit some things, whereas in the past we've just gone in and then that was the time that we had to record it, and then it was just whatever we did in that 20 days was going to be on the record. And this time we kind of got to be like, oh, let's go back, I kind of want to redo that part, or I heard something else, and so that was kind of neat to have the time to do it.
Okay, so it gave you guys a little bit more time to be more organic type thing.
Yeah, and just kind of come up with more ideas, I think, and like just try some other things that I think in the past we were due to budget and time constraints, we were just like whatever we had written at the time was just going to go on there. But this time, it just gave us more time to sort of really listen to the songs and see what they were missing or what they needed, or if they were lacking something when we played them back, and what we could do to kind of like bring out the sound that we wanted to get, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your guys' lyrics and that. So for the album's lead track, I'm gonna butcher the name again. Archipelago.
You got it. Yeah.
Yay! All right. So take me into that a little bit. Like, what was the lyrics for that about?
That's it's funny. I always write the lyrics last. It's the last thing I do.
Okay.
I always write the music and compose everything first. Write it right down to like having a full song without lyrics, and then I tend to put the lyrics as the last sort of flavor based on how the song feels. And that one just seemed to have like a cruisy kind of feel. And Sage and I had just gotten back from Sweden because we had toured through Germany, and we had a few days. We took a week off to go visit friends in Sweden. And our friends live right in Stockholm, and they took us to this cabin on a lake about 2 hours from Stockholm.
Okay.
And actually, no, sorry, it wasn't a lake. It was the ocean. It was right on the ocean side. But if you were on the dock of this cabin on the ocean, you'd swear you're in like Ontario because it looked exactly the same. It was like, in fact, like the whole environment around us just reminded me so much of Canada. And we saw a moose, and there was northern lights, and it was like, I feel like I'm home right now. And so that sort of spurred the chorus of the song, which is it was not all that different in the archipelago. And the archipelago is just means a chain of islands.
Okay.
So, and that's why the ocean felt like lakes, because if you're ever in like northern Ontario, it's just like millions of lakes, right? And so it almost feels like you're among 1,000 islands, and that's what the archipelago in Sweden felt like too. So it was just sort of a song based on one experience, and it was a lovely experience, which made me just sort of reflect on how you could be thousands of miles away from home but feel like you're still there.
Awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go into what personally is probably my favorite song.
Okay.
Sing for the Night.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about the lyrics for that one.
Sure. That's a funny song because again, I wrote the music first, and a lot of my songwriting is done. It's easy to get distracted in life, so I do a lot of my songwriting at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was living at a house with a garage that was sort of private, so I could go in there in the wee hours of the night and sing and rehearse and whatnot and write songs. And I would write, I'd do little demo recordings too of my ideas. And that night I had written the music to sing to the night, but I hadn't had the words yet, and I was really struggling with it. I was like, what the heck is this song about? And so actually it's kind of a song about just that, being in a garage late night, not really knowing the direction you're going in. But the opening words of the song is like, I'm getting down, not in a good way. If I can make it, here I'll stay. And then talking about ashes and bottle caps. I'm just literally talking about my surroundings in a garage at 3 a.m. And then I sing to the walls. I sing to the night. This is literally what I'm seeing. But also, I happened to be reading a book by Farley Mowat.
Okay.
Who I had no idea. The book is called "And No Birds Sing," and No Birds Sang.
Okay.
And it's about the author's experience being a soldier in World War II. And the opening, I just happened to be sitting there, and I opened the book, and the opening line of the book is, "I grew up in Richmond Hill, Ontario," which is my my hometown. So I really started, I got into the book a bit and read a chapter, and then eventually over the next few days wrote the rest of the lyrics to the song, which is sort of about, how cool it is to be from, sitting in this garage and reading this book about this like classic Canadian author who experienced all this stuff before me. And he had just passed away, actually. It was just in the news that Farley Mowat had passed away. So I sort of made the song about my own struggles with creativity in the moment, and also about the passing of Farley Mowat, which had been a huge inspiration at that moment in the garage.
Wow.
Yeah. But you'd never know it from the music video.
No. I was actually going to go into the music videos next.
Yeah.
Especially, you guys have some very creative music videos. Do you guys plan those out yourselves, or...?
Sometimes, but that one we had planned out ourselves. Other times we've actually hired production companies to...
Okay.
Usually somewhere close by, like Edmonton or Calgary. And we've worked with some amazing group producers and crews to make music videos for our music, but some of them we've put together ourselves, and Sing to the Night was one of them. It was actually Sage that sort of conceptualized the script of everything.
Sort of mapped it all together, and then we just had to work backwards so we could film it all in one shot, getting down the mountain. And so at first we were like, this is going to be a giant undertaking, but it came together because we just sort of had to do a number of takes. So I think Jordan and Tim and I went up with the Dylan Siggers, who was going to be filming the video, and so we just kind of had to sort of act out what was going to happen, then just map out where on the mountain we had to be so that we could get it all in one shot. And then on the day of, everyone was just volunteering because it was pretty low budget, so we didn't really get a lot of rehearsals. So on the day of, we're just you stand here and do this, and then the dancers, you stand here and do this. And then I think we did it in seven. We tried 7 takes, and then we took the 5th one. But Dylan, who was filming it, he was just a rock star. He was 21 or 22 at the time. And so he was holding this 50-pound camera, skiing backwards down the mountain, and we'd be like, do you need to take a break after a take? He's like, no, just get me a Red Bull, let's go again. You are a champion. So it was definitely credited a ton to him, because without his skill set and his drive, it wouldn't have been really achievable.
How challenging is it to get all that choreography and everything else down if you don't have much rehearsal time, and say you only have 7 or 8 takes like that?
It would be really a challenge, because I think Ty can probably speak to this because Jordan, Tim, and I, we start the video, so we'd kind of be like in it from the beginning, but all the people at the bottom would be like, okay, this take is working now. We're like, you guys were the people at the bottom being like,
yeah, we'd hear that the video started, and then about 4 minutes later, everyone would come down the mountain, and I think that was when everyone kind of had to turn their attention on and do the whole mantra of don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up.
yeah.
After everyone else had made it down so far. But we worked with an amazing group of people that learned the choreography and did a pretty good job there at the end.
Awesome. It's good. It's good that like when you're working with somebody like volunteers that they're actually willing to put in the effort to make sure that you guys have a solid product to produce.
Yeah, it was really cool actually because we just kind of like put a call out on Facebook and Fernie, like, does anyone want to be in this video? And we got all the costumes and so we like had like a change room and people could just come. So we went to Germany a few months later, and there was, or a year later, and there was our very first show there. There was a guy who had been one of the volunteers, one of the dancers in the music video, and he was from Germany, but he had done a ski season in Canada. So kind of whenever we travel, we'll meet up with people who are like, I was in your Sing to the Night music video. And they're all like people who don't live in Fernie anymore. They're all like people who were just there seasonally. So it's kind of cool to meet up with those people around the world now.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of cool how like the networking you end up doing ends up like working out that way, where you never really end up realizing the web you weave.
Yeah.
As you go through your music career.
Totally. Yeah. I think we're realizing that now more than ever. We'll like meet. We were just in Australia a few months ago, and then we played a show in Nelson, and there was a couple there who were like, we were at your show in Cronulla Beach in Australia. And so it's really cool where you bump into people and sort of where it takes you, and the people who kind of like follow you throughout or will come to your show even if it's like in a different place than when they saw you initially. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's really cool that people are willing to see you in multiple locations just to like find out like, oh, they're playing here tonight? Like, awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool to know that you guys like have like fans that are actually like willing to just drop whatever they're doing that night and just be like, all right, we gotta go to this show.
Definitely.
Yeah, we are grateful for that for sure.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
All right, you guys. You know we're going to get right back into our interview with the members of Shred Kelly, but of course we got to pay a few bills. We got to take care of a little bit of business. So first off, I need to tell you guys about Collar and Elbow, because they are one of the companies that are helping us bring you the Desert Tiger Podcast for free every single week. But have you guys checked out their new spring line yet? Have you checked out how fresh this clothing is? You've already heard me tell you about how comfortable these shirts are, these sweaters are, how soft they are on your skin. But have you checked out the web store yourself just to see how fresh this clothing is? Have you checked out the spring line yet? Have you put your eyes on that grizzled world champion traditional style tee? Have you seen the often imitated, never duplicated Two Lions t-shirt? Have you put your optic spams on that high risk maneuver t-shirt? All of this stuff looks great, and when you're checking out of the Collar and Elbow web store, you're going to save yourself 10% if you use the code DTP. It's that simple. You save yourself 10%, you get yourself some fresh, new, comfortable, stylish clothing from your friends on over at Collar and Elbow. Everybody wins, you have a great time, you look good, and that's what you truly want. Alright, so we're gonna play some more Shred Kelly for you guys. That's right! Yeah! Get excited, get hyped, and don't ever look back.
You should have seen it
right, I hope you guys enjoyed that last track, Don't Ever Look Back, by our guest today, Shred Kelly. We're going to get right back into that interview real soon, but I need to tell you guys a little bit about Audible. Audible is a great audiobook service that is hosted by Amazon, so you know they have lots of content. They literally have thousands on thousands on thousands of audiobooks for whatever it is you are into and you are looking for. Are you looking to get into the Ready Player One novel before you see the film? Well, guess what? You can do that on Audible. They have Game of Thrones, they have biographies for you, they have science fiction, they have fantasy, they have literally pretty much anything that you want that is a book in audiobook form. And if you head on over to www.audible.com/DTP, you get one free audiobook plus 1 free month of the Audible service to try it out. You can use that on whatever it is you want, whether it's that Ready Player One, whether you want to read some cheesy biography on some pop star, whatever it is you are into, www.audible.com/DTP. All right, now let's get back into this interview with Shred Kelly.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
All right, so do you guys have any other cool stories or experiences from the roads? They don't even have to be good ones.
Do you have any mediocre experience? We have a lot of mediocre experience. Do you have any really cool ones?
There's been so many over the years, like 8 years in now. We've done countless tours, but I don't know.
Every day is hilarious.
Yeah, every day is an adventure.
We are actually, we discussed the idea the other day of starting a van podcast of just the things that we talk about in the van.
Yeah.
But we don't,
We might lose our music fans.
we might, it would require a lot
What would that be like?
Likely.
What we're eating at the moment. What gas station we're at.
A lot of chips crunching. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
We eat a lot of chips.
Yeah. We could pick up a different hitchhiker every day. Be a special guest.
Dave. That would be hilarious. Hitchhiker podcast.
That would be, we did used to pick up lots of hitchhikers. We don't as much anymore. Maybe there's less hitchhikers. Or we're just...
We like our space. I think.
Yeah, after a
8
while
years.
you realize that space in the van is like it's a gold mine if you can get it.
Giving it away to random people just doesn't seem
Yeah.
as important after a few runs in a van.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what? Leg space really, really would be nice today.
Yes.
We're going to keep our leg space today. But we have... Well, yeah, we met... One hitchhiker that we picked out. Jordan tells his hitchhiker story best, I think, because we were in the vehicle behind you guys, so we didn't see.
Oh, in New Brunswick. Right.
Oh, okay. Well, there, we were. I was sitting in the passenger seat. Our old guitar player Steve was driving, and there was I guess I'll call it a body. There was a body lying on the shoulder of the highway in the middle of nowhere, New Brunswick. It was like 35 degrees Celsius, super hot day, and there was someone lying on the shoulder of the road. So we went by. Oh no, I was driving, and we. I asked Steve. I was like, "Should we stop?" He's like, "Yeah, of course we should stop." And then, so anyway, we backed up, and Steve ran off to see if this person was okay. And as he got close to it, this young, I'd say he was about probably like 17 or 18 years old, stood up and started walking towards Steve, but you could tell he wasn't too well. And Steve brought him in the van, and he seemed pretty confused. And we fed him a bunch of water and these these cinnamon buns that had been floating around in the van for about 2.5 weeks.
And he ate like an entire package
He
of
ate
them.
like
maybe.
probably about 3 or 4 pounds of cinnamon buns.
Yeah.
Aged.
Not even phased by how stale they were.
No, he was not phased by anything. As he drank more water and ate, he kind of started coming to a little bit. He must have had heat stroke or something, but he was trying to walk from his dad's house to his mom's house, and the distance was like 175 kilometers or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if there was any sort of substances involved in this decision, but
It's possible.
It's possible.
It's possible.
so we were, just driving along, and we took him to this town called Oromocto in New Brunswick, and we asked him where his mom lived, and he said he didn't know, but that he'd be able to get there from his old school. So we just dropped him off at this school, and he just kind of got out of the van and kind of ran away. That was it.
Anthony.
Never saw him again.
Yep.
So Anthony, if you're out there, we're thinking of you. We hope you're good.
Just
Hopefully
drop us a message letting us know you're okay.
He actually left such a legacy on us that we ended up naming our van after him, and we called it Anthony the Brave.
Because it takes a brave soul to try and walk 175 kilometers wearing black jeans when it's 35 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Godspeed, Anthony.
No water,
Yeah,
no plan.
If you're not on something,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yes.
All right, so you guys talked that you guys are a little bit into skiing and other things. What does Shred Kelly like to do when they're not in the studio, when they're not on the road?
I really like to go skiing as much as possible. And I also really like cooking tacos.
Solid.
I like taking the time to play music and experiment a little bit, because so much of the time on the road is spent doing interviews and in the van, and then it's straight to sound check, and then you got to grab a bite to eat before the set, and then you end up only playing your instrument for the time that you kind of have to.
Yeah.
So I end up buying gear while we're on the road. And sometimes it turns into 8-9 months before I can try it out again. So when I get home, I like to spend time in the jam space, just kind of exploring other ideas. Maybe ideas that might not even be based around Shred Kelly, but just making sounds and figuring out my instrument more.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm very similar to Ty there. Well, I'm kind of a mix of both. I like Fernie offers so much along the lines of outdoor recreation. So, especially in the summer for me these days, I like to just bought a mountain bike a couple of years ago, so I'm getting into that. But like Ty, I'm also a gearhead, and I love buying new guitar pedals and stuff like that. And, and there's always another album on the horizon or something, right? So I my favorite thing to do is just actually stay in and just start playing with sounds, and you never know if it'll become a song. But yeah, that's pretty much my life.
Yeah, when I'm home, well, admittedly, I'm a little bit of a workaholic, so I just try to work. I don't take a lot of time off, but when I do, I just try to do a bit of exercise and just catch up with friends mostly. I just look really, while we're away, I sort of miss hanging out with the people that I love the most who live in town, so I just try to, amidst the other stuff I'm doing, just try to really see those people that I love and get to have some quality time with them before we head out on tour again.
Fair enough. That's it, is you don't really get a lot of time for those people when you're on the road and everything else, and they might feel neglected or...
Yeah, so I try to plan
them.
special things for those loved ones when I'm in town, and do things with them whenever I can.
Okay. Cool. So you guys aren't really a riff-based band. So is the name Shred Kelly more so a play on skiing then?
It kind of is, yeah. So it started off as a bit of a joke, even before we were a band. I was living in Fernie with our original guitar player Steve and our original drummer Ian, and we were all ski bum roommates, and we had to go to a Halloween party, and so we were getting ready. I dressed up as Twisted Sister that year, I think.
Nice.
And Ian was a deranged robot or something, and Steve was kind of stuck. He was like, I don't know what I'm going to be yet. He's not much of a costume guy. So he's actually an Australian fellow, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Ned Kelly, but Ned Kelly's sort of a legendary bush ranger outlaw from Australia from the old days of the country, and he's famous because when the law caught up to him in his gang, they surrounded him in a cabin, and he decided to take apart a wood stove and make armor, and he came out shooting, and they couldn't take him down. And so in Australia, if you ever go there, there's Ned Kelly everywhere, but it's like this like kind of mythical cartoon figure with two guns and a stovepipe over his head with a little eye hole cut out.
Huh.
And so he dressed up like that. He had like this like cardboard stovepipe to go over his head, and he had two toy guns, but that's kind of all he had. He didn't have like the rest, so he just didn't really look the part. And so it was getting time for the party, and he was sort of stressed out, and he's like, look, this costume hasn't come together. So we started just pulling together what we could find in our house, and of course, being ski bums, we had a lot of snowboard gear, so we added that to his costume, and instead we called him Shred Kelly instead of Ned Kelly.
Nice.
Yeah. And then like a few months later, we played our first gig as a band, and like it was at the top of we played it as a 3-piece, just me, Steve, and Ian, at the top of the ski hill, which was the Lost Boys Cafe, which is a little cafe at the top of the chairlift, and no band had ever actually played up there before, so it was kind of a thing the town was interested in doing a newspaper story about. And so we got interviewed, and it was our very first gig, and they said, okay, well, so for the paper, what's the name of your band? And we were just like, uh-oh, we don't have a name. And it was just the first thing that came up, the top of our head. We'll be Shred Kelly for this gig. And that was it. It was sort of solidified into time.
Nice. It's a lot better than a lot of other bands' stories.
Yeah!
For sure.
There you go.
All right, so we talked earlier about how you weren't really into like the bluesy sort of like bluesgrass type scene.
Yeah.
So who were your guys' say high school influences or the bands that like you grew up on?
I think, yeah, we have such a large eclectic mix. I'll start with mine. I grew up in the 90s. As a teenager in the 90s, and so I was, of course, exposed to grunge and punk and all that kind of stuff. So that was my thing. I think one of the bands I looked up to the most was the Smashing Pumpkins. And through the years, I loved Weezer and, Pearl Jam and all those, classic bands. Yeah, that was me. And then like lots of punk. I listened to... Which I think actually there's a lot of punk in our music. So I listened to like a lot of classic punk bands like the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and the Clash, and then went into like sort of the 90s punk scene, which was NoFX and all those bands. Yeah. Who's next?
I listened to a lot of punk rock in high school as well. Same as Tim. NoFX and Rancid and the Clash. Ramones were kind of my favorite bands then, and then I really got into like kind of Canadian indie rock in the early 2000s, like Arcade Fire when they first came out, and Wolf Parade has been a favorite of mine for a long time. Things like that, and then also classic music like Fleetwood Mac that I listened to with my mom, and the Temptations, like old Motown and stuff. Anyway, it's pretty broad. I like a lot of different things, but that's me.
Yeah, I'm all over the place too, but probably got into it with the grunge, and then moved on to the classic rock and got into the Pink Floyd and that kind of stuff, which led to the Grateful Dead, which I listen to a lot of still, and that turned into listening to a lot of the band Fish and going and seeing them a lot, and I still listen to every show that they play the next day or as it happens. But I'm all over the place too. I like jazz, I like reggae, I like funk, bluegrass. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm also the same. I listen to a lot of different things, but growing up I listened to a lot of just what my parents were playing, and they were playing like a lot of Canadian music, so a lot of Alanis Morissette and Tragically Hip and Bare Naked Ladies were kind of like what I grew up listening to. And then when I was a teenager, I started listening more to like the Postal Service and Death Cab for Cutie and Metric. And then now, I like all sorts of things. It's cool touring and seeing so many bands because it's so interesting what happens when you see a band live. It's like you love them so much more. So now a lot of the stuff that we listen to are bands that we've played with or watched at a festival that we've been at. And so it's kind of like those sort of become the things that we play in the van all the time. So it's, but yeah, we all like a lot of different things. So it's good because we usually we enjoy what most of the other members are playing. Sometimes we all have a few picks that not everyone can agree on, but for the most part, we're pretty open.
Okay. What was the first concert you guys went to?
Aerosmith.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious? That's a good first concert. I had no idea. Mine.
That's my bank password too. If you ever try it.
Whoa! I think you just told the world that.
Guess I'll change my bank password.
Have to change that.
My first concert was at Canada's Wonderland at Kingswood Theatre, and it was the Spin Doctors with Soul Asylum and the Screaming Trees.
You win. Mine was Bob Dylan.
That's true. You win.
In London, Ontario.
You win, but let me.
Well, that was pretty good.
Let me just checkmate there.
I don't know. It's a toss-up.
I went to see Millencolin in Toronto when I was 14. My mom dropped me off, and I tried to dress as cool as possible to go see this Swedish pop punk band that I thought was pretty cool. It was fun. I loved it. I thought I was pretty cool.
Actually, I take back what I said. My first like concert was Aerosmith, but my first like show ever was. Do you guys remember Moneen?
Yeah.
Moneen, they used to tour. They used to play like an all ages show in Kenora, and no other bands ever did that. So no one in Kenora could go watch any other bands except Moneen. Every time they came through, they did an all ages show at the community center. So it would just be like a bunch of 15-year-olds just mosh.
That's smart. That's awesome.
So Moneen, I guess, was my first.
Okay, I'm jealous. I've never actually seen them live.
They're awesome.
I was huge on them back in the day. All right, before I ask my last question to you guys, where can the listeners find you online, find your music, anything of that sort?
We are on all streaming platforms on the internet, so whatever your flavor is, we're on it.
Are we on Tidal?
Maybe not Tidal. Maybe that might be the only. Okay, we are on 99.9% of all streaming platforms.
For those of you who missed it, Tim pointed at the microphone when he said it.
Yeah, that's you.
That's you.
Podcast world.
And then our website is www.shredkelly.com, and that has links to like our YouTube and all the other stuffs. We're on Facebook. We're still on Facebook, even though
they're stealing our information.
Everyone's fleeing Facebook. Stay on it. It's our only way to contact you.
Even though they keep trying to make it harder and harder.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so what does the future hold for not only Shred Kelly, but the members of Shred Kelly?
Oh, man.
Well, we just put out our latest record, so we are touring that at the moment. And so look out for more tours this summer coming up. We're doing lots of festivals, which you can find on our website. As for individually,
I'm going to write a cookbook one day about tacos.
Nice.
Tour, record, rinse, repeat.
I can only give you like an hour from now. I'm going to get like some coffee and a bagel, I think.
Tim only ever thinks about breakfast. We haven't given him breakfast yet, so he's unable to process any other any other thoughts.
I just live it in the moment.
That's fair.
So yeah, I can only give you my breakfast plans. So.
which he has not developed yet.
Okay.
He's so in the moment.
He's gonna put his shoes on.
I'm gonna put my shoes on. Get to the van eventually. These guys are gonna drive me somewhere.
They sound like your babysitter.
No one's ever said it.
I think one day I'd really like to write a play, and at the moment I'm torn between whether the play will be about a kids camp, because when I grew up my parents owned a kids camp, so I've got lots of material, or a spin class musical on a bike. So those are the two.
Both
Those are
good
the two
ideas.
options.
Both really good ideas.
So I may need to get the rest of the band to help me write the music for the spin class musical.
I'm in. I've already got some ideas.
Awesome.
I feel like you guys could also make an amazing music video out of that too. So
Yes.
Spin
That's
class.
a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Nice. You're hired.
See you in June.
all right, awesome. Sounds good to me. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
This was really fun. Thank you, Tucker.
Thanks, Tucker.
Thanks, Tucker.
Thanks, Colton.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
All right, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this interview with the members of Shred Kelly just as much as I did. I had a lot of fun interviewing these guys. Obviously, Tucker had a blast himself. He was very happy to meet some new friends. You guys have met Tucker before in a few of our previous episodes. This might be his most prevalent episode, though. He was very excited to be a part of this journey with me and the members of Shred Kelly. And I would like to thank Tim, Sage, Jordan, and Ty for taking the time to stop by, visit me and Tucker, to share the story of Shred Kelly. They had played a show in Kamloops the night before over at the Blue Grotto, so I know that maybe they were a little bit tired, so I'm very happy that they were willing to make the Desert Tiger podcast a part of their journey. And like I said, I'm extremely thankful for them stopping in and sharing this story with us. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it just as much as I did. And if you did, maybe you guys want to head on over and maybe pick up that new album, Archipelago. I hope I said that right. I hope you guys, if you do want to check them out, buy some merch. They have some amazing hats. They have this killer trucker hat. It's really cool. It's probably my favorite hat ever right now. I got one myself, so you guys know that it is probably the fresh shit around, just based on that. The new album is amazing. All their albums amazing. Maybe you guys even want to just go check out their music videos, like that music video for Sing for the Night. Check it out on YouTube. Go right now. Check out Shred Kelly on YouTube. Check out the Sing for the Night music video. Check out any of that other stuff. Follow them on social media. Any of that. Check out their music on Spotify. They've been streamed over 1 million different times, so you know other people are enjoying it. So what are you guys missing out on? And while you're checking out those videos, while you're following Shred Kelly on all the socials, the Instagrams, the Twitters, the Facebooks, you should also check out Desert Tiger on all 3 of those as well, because you know that we're there. But if you truly want to stay on top of the podcast and you really want to help us out, the best way to do that is to hit subscribe. It helps us out so much. If you just hit follow on Spotify, if you hit subscribe on Google Play or Castbox or iTunes or Stitcher, if you're on our website, you can get our RSS feed directly from there, so you can add it into your RSS feeds, so you get the Desert Tiger podcast directly to that every single week. That's what helps us out the most. I mean, you can help out our sponsors as well, or you can share this episode, or anything of that sort as well, because yes, that helps us out too, and I would really, really, really be in your debt if you did that. But the best way is just to hit subscribe and to check out our previous episodes and to give us feedback. Tell us how we can improve. Tell us what you enjoyed. Tell us who you would like to see on the show. That's the biggest one. Tell us who you want to see. I am constantly emailing people, literally, like, always emailing people. So who do you guys want to see? Who do you want to hear? Let me know, because I want to know what you guys want to hear, because obviously you guys are enjoying what we're putting forward right now, and I want to continue to do that. So help me help you. Alright, so we've thanked Shred Kelly. We've thanked you guys, the listeners. I think now there's really only one thing to do, and that's play a little bit of more music. So if you're gonna go down, you might as well die trying.
There's a little thought. I took the path least traveled on, and if it's not this hole, then where do I belong? And if I hold the cards, I don't know which one I should play. Would it be better that way?
the Desert Tiger Podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review. iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thanks for listening.